benefit of a franchise is a lot of the stuff is done for you, meaning like, they take care of, most of them will take care of tech, some of the marketing, other things. And they should be able to propel you forward with coaching and advisory and having a good support structure for you. So I think a lot of things people get wrong is you're buying it, franchisors take the royalty, they don't do anything. It's incorrect. If you find a great franchisor, and there's a lot of them out there, they have things that can make you move faster and kind of time collapse what you actually want to do. So I think it's all about finding the right fit.
Welcome to the Lead In Podcast, where we dive deep into genuine stories of leaders who've seized control of their journey. This podcast is brought to you by Lead Hub, your growth partner for the trades. And now, let me kick it over to our guy, Austin Lenny.
Guys, welcome back. See, we might just start our own podcast together, because I went on his last week and now he's on mine. So this might be the only guest that we just might start our own podcast together.
I like it. Let's just repeat it every single week and just talk about the same thing over and over and over. It's perfect.
Well, maybe they would actually listen if you just do the same thing.
Just repeat it, right? Like,
no,
wow, they sound
sorry,
like my
guys.
mother now.
Yeah. No, I have the same joke. I said, y'all going to ask me 15 years from now how I got here, and I'm going to say I've been saying the same thing for 15 years. You just haven't listened. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, start your story where you want to, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, sure. So currently I run a franchise business called Made This Franchise. I'm the franchisor. We're in almost 30 locations around the U.S. It's a fully remote cleaning business focused on Airbnbs and short-term rentals, as well as residential cleaning. So I've actually started the business myself. I was working in private equity 11 years ago, decided I wanted to quit and travel, and I couldn't figure out how. And finally, I was on Reddit when I was supposed to be working and came across a post of a guy who started a cleaning company. And I was like, that sounds easy enough. Let me do it. And it was the only thing I was doing was started working. Eventually, 2 years after that, quit my job, booked a one-way flight down to South America and started traveling. I was going to travel for a year, ended up becoming over 5 years of travel, while systemizing the business and having it run remotely. And then, decided to start franchising it a few years ago and just working on that right now.
So before we unpack all of that, franchising, I think people associate it only with like a Subway, a Chipotle, like the bigger ones, right? They don't really understand that there's smaller franchise. Your 30 is small. 30 is not small, but there's smaller, different. What would you say is the number one thing that people get wrong about franchising?
Yeah, it's about like 30 is small. I think under 50 is technically called a micro franchise.
Well,
which is wild.
In my eyes, you're big.
Yeah.
In my eyes,
Yeah.
so I'm your number one fan club. In my eyes, you're big. Okay.
There we go. See, this is why we're doing the podcast. Just hype each other up every single week. I think the thing people get wrong about franchising is probably what I got wrong at the beginning. I thought franchising, dude, this is old school. This is what my parents did. I'm the new generation. I'm not going to get into franchising. But franchising is kind of like business on training wheels. Now, there's large franchises like McDonald's where it's a minimum $1 million buy-in. There's like Chick-fil-A. There's all these brand names out there that you see. The brand names you see for franchising is a very small percent of the actual franchises which exist. They're just the ones in the front. There's a lot of services on the back end, home services, things you don't see. And the benefit of a franchise is a lot of the stuff is done for you, meaning like, they take care of, most of them will take care of tech, some of the marketing, other things. And they should be able to propel you forward with coaching and advisory and having a good support structure for you. So I think a lot of things people get wrong is you're buying it, franchisors take the royalty, they don't do anything. It's incorrect. If you find a great franchisor, and there's a lot of them out there, they have things that can make you move faster and kind of time collapse what you actually want to do. So I think it's all about finding the right fit.
So I'm going to talk about just myself. Listen.
Yep.
I am a unicorn, okay? And I like a stallion. I like to be set free in the roaming fields, and it's hard to get me back in. So that's why I believe I could never do a franchise.
Yeah.
Personally.
I don't think it's for everyone. So I
don't
agree.
like structure. I'm just being honest.
Yep.
And like I'm not saying it's not successful. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're truly looking for something that has a recipe for success and there's no gray area, there's always gray area, but if it's more concrete, right? I think franchising could be good for somebody that maybe it wants to invest in a vehicle that can create something. But I think the benefits for you as the franchisor is that I believe that you're somebody that likes to help people. And so it gives you that ability at scale. So where you sit, I would love to do what you do. I just don't know, for me personally, if I could be the franchisee.
Yeah, I think it's a very specific type of person. And the analogy I always tell people is just the Sherpa analogy. So I did Everest Base Camp in May this year with my wife. And if I tried to do it myself, I would get lost immediately, right? Like I wouldn't know where to get the food. I wouldn't know where to do shelter. I didn't know which path to take. Like it's complicated to actually do it. We hired a Sherpa, which is pretty much a local guide from Nepal who's done this like a million times. And he guided us the path. He said, we're going to stay here. Those prices are astronomical. Let me negotiate for you. Let me guide you up this path. Hey, you need a rest day here. Like he just knew what to do. And we happily paid him for the extra advice.
Sure.
This is the same with a franchise system or a business coach or a mentor or whatever. Someone who could be the Sherpa to get you to Mount Everest faster rather than you doing it yourself. Now, there's a lot of people on the trail who are doing it themselves, which is fine. Like they just wanted that adventure. They wanted to do it themselves. They wanted to move at their own pace. They wanted to carve up their own thing. That's totally okay. I think there's certain people who want the Sherpa and certain people who don't want the Sherpa and some people who want to mix, right? And I think within the franchise system, you have the Sherpa and everything's built in. Now, Austin, for people like you, very entrepreneurial, want to do your own thing, want to blaze your own trail, don't do franchising. That would be my honest opinion.
Well, what I think is I'm always the guy behind the game. What I think is juxtaposition in this whole scenario is, so listen, you're in LA, this is Nepal, and he's a Sherpa and he's done this amount 1,000 times. That's great. But you're so far out of your element there that he could have told you the sky's purple and you'd have been like, sounds great, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Thing. So what I think's awesome is like in the right context, if the Sherpa came to LA, they wouldn't pay him the same to show him around LA. Like that's what I think is so cool is like in that position, he has ultimate, let's take it to another level. He has ultimate frame.
Yeah. Nailed it.
He's got ultimate frame. Nailed it. Right.
And that's why I do think this isn't true for all franchise systems, but a lot of people who get into franchising are newer entrepreneurs. Now, sometimes you get into the larger franchises and you get like very seasoned entrepreneurs, but they're typically like investing millions and doing build outs and buying multi-territories and opening up McDonald's everywhere. Like it's a different scale depending where you're at. But a lot of the franchisees who join us, it's maybe the first or second time in entrepreneurship. That's typically who you see. So they're out of their element. You know, they're in Nepal. They don't know what they're doing. And they just want a guide.
And so when somebody's looking for a franchise or a vehicle to invest in, what, without just being a sales pitch for yourself, but what should they be looking for, and like what signs, right? Because there's so many out there. Like what should they be looking for?
Also, I think it's kind of like when people want to get into the business, most things people look at is how much money can I make? Which I think is the worst question to ask because there's a million ways of making money. I have a buddy who runs a power washing company and he's doing really well. He makes a ton of money. He has a bunch of trucks. He has to show up at the yard every morning and, give guys the jobs for the day. He freaking hates it. He hates it, right? And there's other people who would love that, but he got into it because he first said, I want to make money. What makes the most money? Let me get into that, which I think is the wrong way of doing it. And for me, I think, what is like, how do you construct your life? A little plug for the podcast over there. How do you construct your life first? What's your ideal life? Then find a business model which suits it. That's my philosophy. So for us, we're fully remote. Like I wanted to travel. I wanted to support my parents. I didn't want to have these vehicles, wraps, all this kind of stuff, this heavy risk in my opinion. So I built a business model which supports that. It's fully remote. For some people, they don't care about that. It's irrelevant for what they want in life, then don't do it. So the first thing I would say is, what do you actually want in terms of your lifestyle structure? If you hate fast food and you don't like going to a location, don't open up at McDonald's. It's as simple as that. There's a million ways of making money. So number one fallacy I think people fall into is they chase the money without realizing there's unlimited ways of actually making money. So once you actually find what you actually want and how do you want to structure your life, then you start to search for franchises which help fulfill that. And many franchises lean one way or another in terms of what they offer for support. a lot of times earlier franchises, you could be a little bit more entrepreneurial. Things aren't set up too much. You have a lot more input into the franchise system. You're one of the early pioneers. You're kind of getting going with things. So oftentimes, if you want to be a little bit more entrepreneurial, some of the more younger franchises might be better fit for you. The other side is they don't have everything fully figured out for the franchise system, but maybe that's okay, right? Or if you want just pure structure, you'd probably go with one of the big boys, the ones who've been around for decades, have hundreds of locations, and you just have to follow what they say to a T. So I think that would be the second criteria, Austin, which is you have the ideal life you want, you have the ideal size you want, and then I think only after that you would look into industry, money potential, things like that. And of course, the last one I didn't mention is, do you actually like the person? Do you actually like the people you're going to be working with? It freaking suck if you get into a business and you hate the founder or you hate the franchisor and you already don't vibe with them. For us, one of the top criteria is, for me, would I get a beer or a non-alcoholic beverage with this person? If the answer is no, I would not sell them a franchise because I just think it's that important.
And what have you done for yourself to become that person? Like what have you done to become somebody to attract these franchisees, and how do you look at that from your point of view?
Yeah, mine, when you get into franchising, what no one tells you is how do you find franchisees, right? Because this is like a high ticket sale, quote unquote, where it's a lot of money. You're convincing someone to join your system, to bet on you. It's kind of a lot. So for me, I just started putting out a lot of social media content. So almost all of our franchisees have come through some social media branding for myself, whether it's a podcast or Twitter. Those are probably the two most popular, but a lot of other things. Based off of that, I've kind of found that people who might vibe with what I'm saying, or maybe me personally, end up inquiring and end up joining the franchise system. So it's kind of a natural filtering system. These aren't like, most of them are not cold leads who I have to then convince or like I have to vet myself. They're people who kind of know the brand, maybe listen to my podcast, understand it, and then inquire. So it's already self-selected.
I love that. And so one of the questions I had when you were talking about lifestyle, which I agree with everything, has your needs for your lifestyle changed as the business has grown? Meaning, do you, I'm going to be very careful with what I say because I don't want you to talk. What I'm saying is, like, do you see you doing this business for the foreseeable future, or do you need an outlet outside of that? Like, has it done everything for your lifestyle that you wanted, for you personally?
Yeah. A question, do you mean on the franchise side or my own corporate-owned location?
I mean, no. I'm not worried about your corporate. I'm very. What I'm saying is, like, there was a lifestyle when you created the business, and it's grown to 30 locations. I mean, oh my God, it's like, is it going to be? I'm sure you want it to be 900 locations. That doesn't matter. Whatever you want it to be. But like, how do you continue to adapt your lifestyle with the business as it grows? I think that's the better question.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think like a couple of years ago, or maybe even a year ago, I went through this big mental challenge of, crap, if I grow, I give up my lifestyle. And yes. I felt like I was kind of
you answered it perfectly. That's where I was after.
Yeah. Like I think a lot of people think that. I thought that. I still kind of think that at some point, right? And I kind of realized, and it took me honestly working with the mindset coach to figure out like, oh, that's actually completely opposite. And I now have realized this to be true, and I'll tell you the new truth. But I was shooting myself in the foot. I was, you make subconscious decisions when you think that's true. The truth I thought was, if I grow a big business, I have a lot more responsibilities. I sacrifice my lifestyle. Let me play it small, and I can maintain my lifestyle. That was what I was telling myself. Now what I know to be true is, the bigger I grow, the more freedom I get. And it's absolutely fact, because I actually have money to hire people to take off stuff from my calendar. For example, right now I do a lot of sales calls or franchise prospecting calls. It takes up a lot of my day. And I enjoy it, but it just takes up way too much time. Now, if I wanted to stay the size we're at, I can't afford to hire someone to take that off of my plate who's very high level, who could actually deliver on the service. But because we're growing, I will have enough capital to deploy and invest in a person to take that over. That improves my lifestyle. And just because I've seen it play out, now I know the actual way to get to freedom is to grow a larger business. That's true. And that's probably one part of it. And the other part, after I realized that, is I also put artificial constraints to make sure I can maintain the lifestyle I want. So next month, I'm going to Mongolia with my wife, and we're going to go live with a nomadic clan over there for a couple weeks. I purposely built the business in a way where I could do that kind of adventure stuff because I love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to really sacrifice and say, well, maybe I should open up an office because it's going to be better for the business. Or, I should probably stay and do more sales calls. It's going to close more sales. That's probably all true. I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like, I truly believe the purpose of business is to support the lifestyle you want. And as long as my franchisees are taken care of, which now that, we've grown well enough, we have 8 people on staff, they're good. I could take a couple weeks off and I don't feel guilty about it. So I think it's also just painting the picture of how you want to construct your life and making sure the business suits that.
Well, let me tell you something right now. I just found my Sherpa because me and my fiance's dream is to go to Nepal and Mongolia. So
really, there we go.
You figured it out first, and then we're going.
I got the connects.
You know what's crazy? This is the craziest thing ever. We had a guy. So when somebody, two things that blow me away as a business owner. When somebody gets hired and you don't even know their name and they start, and then when a sales gets executed and you didn't even know that the client closed the deal,
right?
You're like, okay, I feel a little weird, but that was pretty awesome. Like,
yep.
And it's like this morning, like I went in, like my CEO's out of town. He's on vacation right now, but I went in and like the manager's leading the meeting and these guys are getting these things. And I'm just like, it just like blows me away. It's like they're doing all the things. And he was out all last week and I was gone half the week and we were in another state and nobody died. And like, we still made money. Like, it's just such
yeah. It's wild, man.
You feel guilty a little bit as an owner. You're like, oh my God. Like one of the things that we joke about, this is so true. Guys, we're sick people, entrepreneurs. I spent my whole life, my entire life, wanting a lifestyle business that could scale, that would have the right people in place. And the moment I got it, I feel useless. Like the moment I got it, I'm like, like, oh my God, I got what I wanted, but now I got to find my place, And so it's like it's such a weird oxymoron. I just interviewed a guy off of X who had 2 exits and he went into like a deep depression for like weeks. Like it's the truth.
I hear that by far more than people being really happy.
Took him a year. Took him a year to get out of it. And so be careful what you create when your identity or whatever your needs are so tied to it.
It's so well stated, man. And like a small anecdote, my goal in starting franchising was get to 20. I was like, I want to get to 20 because then, calculated the capital coming in. I'm like, okay, I can make it work. I do things like that's my goal. 20 sounds so far away. We got to 20. And I remember thinking like, I felt great for 1 week. And then after that, I'm like, now my goal is 50. I'm like, dude, what? Like you achieved what you wanted to do. You worked like 4 years about this. Why don't you just move the goalposts and delay happiness a little bit more? But that's what we do, right? And I think that's just like human nature. And when I realized, okay, I don't think it's ever gonna end, unfortunately. It's not like, let's say my next goal is making up stuff. I want to make $1 million in profit a year. Now I kind of know if I achieve that, it's just going to move again. And I don't know, Austin, if there's a way of stopping that movement or just realizing that's part of it. So don't get so attached to delaying happiness till later because things just kind of move. I'm curious on your opinion on that one.
I think that you have to embrace things that don't have an end in mind. And what I mean by that is I just literally had this exact conversation with him. For me, everything that I do, and we're working on something really big right now. Some things change Thursday. Like I've never been more excited when I can finally release this on the world. My ultimate bottom line why, top line why is jobs. Okay, there's not a revenue number. It's jobs. Well, that's never going to be enough for me. Like, there's never going to be a day where I'm like, oh, we shouldn't add a job today. Like, that's not meaning like jobs that are my employees, not like jobs, right? So like at 80, there's still another job. So for me, I think it'll be something that I always strive to. So that's the case. But I do believe in 2 different things. One, I do think you should have short-term targets that if you hit them, you have little goals, like prizes, right? I think that's just to keep you engaged. That's what I do with my sales team. That's what I need to start doing with myself. I do have some revenue goals based around golf trips and places we want to go, which is super exciting to me. But I also am obsessed with, I think you and I are very similar. I'm an all-in or all-out guy. And so what I'm going to do probably starting at the end of next year is I'm going to structure, 2 months to 6 weeks off every year. And those are
there we go.
Because
do you
for
feel
me,
guilty doing that, Austin?
No, I used to. I think that we're at an interesting time in our business where it's a little difficult to do that. But I have a great team around me. For me, I'm just going to be 100% honest. I've learned things about myself. So I am a 3-day, 2-night, or I'm a 2-week trip guy. There's no in between. Like
short weekend or long.
4 or 5 days, too long. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. Itching. But after like day 10, I finally get down to a different gear.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. Like me in Spain, I tried to fight that so much, and then I was like totally taking naps after like 10 days.
I love it. Just it takes like 7 days to shed the American work ethic, and you're like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, because I'm actually like people think like I'm like super high energy, and I am, but I'm like actually the opposite way, like big time. Like I could go to bed at 6 o'clock most days. Like,
oh really?
Like oh yeah, and then like if I'm in Europe, like naps, like cool man, like we're good. Like that's but like it's like I get the permission and like whatever it is, right? Okay, perfect example, your business. I did Airbnb for years at large scale. I give this advice to people and they think I'm out of my mind. So every first time Airbnb investor should buy a property out of the state they live in. And they
should be able to not to put the constraints on it, you mean?
To learn how to operate your business the proper way.
Yeah.
If it's around the corner from you, you're going to do stuff.
Yeah.
And so you should do the same thing with your vacations and stuff. Go so far away. If you really having a hard time, go so far away where first of all, maybe your cell phone doesn't work or all of those things. Like my cell phone doesn't work the same in Canada. Like I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm only 5 hours away. So it's like, okay, just go up to Canada. Like, look, I know it's ridiculous that we as Americans have got here, but I'm sorry. Like, it is what it is. Like, a nice hike where you have no cell phone reception, like, maybe people should do that more often.
100%. Funny enough, yesterday, I was talking to a buddy of mine. His name is Tom. I met him in Thailand. He runs desert island survival trips. Super random. So I did it with him. Stranded on an island off of Panama for 10 days, and like you're out and just like surviving, right? They teach you how to survive, and then you survive. And he does this like excursions everywhere, not just in Panama, but he does a bunch of other adventure stuff. And I was talking to him yesterday because he was doing a talk on the benefits of just being out and away from your phone and detached. And I think everyone knows like, oh yeah, get out in nature. But he has even more evidence because he's just living off the land. He cured his IBS just by being out. He did all these like crazy things when you realize like, oh my God, the way we live, even if we think we're being healthy, is not really until you get out.
I am on 25 hours, 26 hours fast right now.
Oh, wow.
So I've done as much as 3 days before. I'm probably going to do 3 days, 2 days this time, maybe longer, depending on, might have some broth to get through. And what people don't realize is we become a society of covering the issue. Okay. Do you want to know how you feel great and solve some health issues? Don't put shit in your body and let your body heal itself. Do you want to know what people do when they have a fever? They take medicine. You know what a fever does? A fever is supposed to regulate your body so it fixes things. Like we've become this like, I want to avoid pain at all times. So I'm going to do everything necessary. The greatest thing I ever did for myself was do a 24-hour fast like once a week.
Really?
Like, I feel, oh my God, life-changing.
Dude, I can't believe you're doing a podcast with us. I'd be so hangry. Be like, all right, let's get to the next question.
I'm on my 5th podcast already. I've been up since 4 a.m.
Gee, so you do it every single week?
I do. One day. I don't do it I at least do it 2-3 times a month.
Okay.
I stop eating at lunch on Sunday, and I'll eat lunch on Monday.
Okay.
That's it.
Dude, that's it. Okay.
I don't have dinner, and I don't have breakfast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have breakfast.
just water.
You know, a lot of people do 16-8, so they'll do intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, I could go into crazy stats, but
Yeah.
basically, you have mitochondria in your body that's deteriorating, that's old, and when you fast, it recreates new ones. But there's a video on Amazon Prime called Fasting, and it's a documentary. Okay, This woman was on 68 pills a day. 68 pills a day. She went to a juice, like a fasting place in Spain. She got off of everything.
Yeah.
They fixed 40 people's. There was a person that, okay, perfect example. There was a person that had migraines so bad, like literally she went to every doctor, every medicine, they couldn't figure it out. She did 2 45-day fast. She's never had a headache since.
Jeez.
Like, we have to give okay, perfect example. Did you know the number one thing that takes energy out of our body? Did you know what that is?
Digesting food?
Correct.
Nailed it.
So if you give it a minute, like, and here's what's even more messed up, and I do it for the health reasons, but I do it for different reasons too. If you ever want to truly feel the subconscious crap about eating, fast. Fast. The stuff, because what you realize is you're hungry at certain times because that's what we've been conditioned to do. If you breathe for like 5 minutes, it passes, you're not hungry anymore.
Oh, wow.
And you're like, okay, do I really? Like, and so there's just so much stuff,
I'm going to try this next Sunday. I like that plan.
Mm-hmm.
So
so there's an app. It's free called Zero, and you just click when you want to fast, and it keeps your time for you, and then tells you when you can eat again. But I really think that if anybody, because for me, like, I don't like and I even when I was a drinker, like, I never drink beer because I don't like bloating. Like, I don't like that heavy feeling.
Yeah.
But man, I feel like I had a mentor. This was back when I started trying it. He goes, "Do you know that you know how sharks feel when they're getting up to eat? They feel hungry and everything." He's like, "That's why I don't eat breakfast." He's like, "Because I want to be into my day. I want to feel like I'm hunting." And I was like, it's pretty good.
Kind of badass way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been good for me. Also, I picked up my intensity in my working out and stuff like that, which has helped too. But I was just telling the last guy I interviewed with, I realized that as we grow as a company, my health and my energy is number one.
You tell me this last time we talked, where it really stuck with me, by the way, and I want to repeat it here, where a lot of entrepreneurs now are paid for their decision making and not the tasks they do, not the grunt work. Therefore, like, whatever you could do to keep your decision making sharp, even if it seems counterintuitive, that's what you should be doing because you're paid proportional to that. Versus a lot of people think I just got to crank out the max amount of work, which is actually false at some stage in entrepreneurship. And also, I don't know when that stage is. Is it like revenue based, or it's way earlier than people think? But I'd probably say for most business owners, they get to decision making as the main metric probably soon.
I would say there's 40% of things that I'm currently doing in the business that I technically shouldn't be doing. Yeah. But I just enjoy being connected to the business.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff. If I had a consultant and they were like, "Hey, you shouldn't be driving around materials, and you should," like, I don't mind. Yeah. I don't mind. I get to connect with my guys. I get to talk on the phone when I'm driving. Like, yeah, but can't you pay somebody to do that? Yeah, I could, but it's cool.
There's kind of like an overemphasis, especially from like business coaches, on over optimization.
Sweater vest? Yeah.
Where they're like, "Oh, why don't you just like pay? Why are you going out to get a haircut? You should just have someone come to your house because it saves time." I'm like, what do you think I'm going to do with the extra time? You think I'm going to like work? So like, there's always like, I understand the logic. I get it. If you put time towards like not these menial tasks, then you could actually focus on making more money and whatever. But I think I don't know, when people say that, I'm like, do you really think people are working just constantly? Like, I like going out and interacting with the people. I understand it's low value for my time. I don't really, that's not the emphasis of what I'm optimizing for always. Maybe 8 hours of the day I will, but besides that, It's crazy.
Well, my favorite thing to do in the entire world, next to when I buy a boat, is mowing the grass. And
Really?
so we have,
Wow.
we have 15 acres out there. There's probably like two that I'll mow about once a week. So on Friday afternoons, I go out there and I mow and I decompress from the week, and I think about stuff and I like work through stuff. And everybody's like, "Oh, you should pay somebody to do that." I'm like, "Why would you take that away from me?"
Yep.
Like, why would you take that away from me? And like, I think that we've over indexed optimization, and we've forgotten joy.
Yeah. Especially doing the small things.
Look, here's the truth. Should you bring on more people to do jobs that you don't like? Yes. But don't forget that the reason that why you started the business. Like, if you take that away from you, then you've lost the thing. Here's my favorite quote I came up with. The better you get at cooking, the farther you get away from the kitchen. The better you're a chef these day and days, the less you don't cook anymore.
You become a people manager.
Yeah. That's not why you started it in the first place.
No. But technically, it's like lower value stuff, quote unquote, which you give away, which is the cooking, but that's what you love to do. So I agree. It's hard. I feel, Austin, like in entrepreneurship, for me, it's a little bit hard to identify what do I love doing as part of what I'm doing. And like, I say this where I think I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, but maybe not an expert at all. Like, I could probably do a little bit of everything, and I'm fine with it. Like, there's nothing I'm too deficient in. But because of that, it's also hard for me to say, all right, well, here's where I'm going to actually focus my time and effort. And I think that's a hard part for a lot of business owners, because you probably start off doing everything so you can. How do you really know what you want to focus on when you have that luxury? I think it's always a hard thing to deconstruct for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think anything that creates resistance multiple times. Like, oh, okay. Like, I could do this and it's cool, but like, I don't really want to do this. Like, I would be more. Let me pull back for a minute and let me sit in the chair of a franchisee. I would invest in you, and I don't even care what the mechanics of the business are. I don't. You going to Mongolia in Nepal, like, I want that. So I would just be like, well, this is how you do it.
Whatever that guy's selling.
So by you doing more of what you love to do, you're going to find people that want to do the things that you love to do, and then they're going to invest in you. So it's actually counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So you definitely should get the sales guy. You should definitely write a book, and you should definitely speak on stage, and you should take more trips. And and your business will triple.
Yeah. Focus on doing what you want to do. Like, just at the end of the day, and it just happens.
And okay, perfect example. When I started coaching, I was traveling a bunch when I started coaching. And I was very nervous about the optics of having a different screen behind me. And I was like, oh my God, my clients are going to think I don't care about them. I'm taking calls in a car. I'm in a hotel. And every client to a man said, oh, I'm so inspired that you're traveling around.
It works.
And here
counterintuitive, like you said.
Out. Yeah, here I am freaking out. And they're like, no, this is great. Cool.
Yeah.
You know, and when somebody said, like, this is one of the greatest quotes this is one of the best compliments I ever got in my life. Just 3 years ago. They said, I never met somebody that is more their brand than you are your brand.
Ooh. Dude, I wish someone said that to me. That's awesome.
I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm going for.
Just take out your phone and say it again.
So it's like, that's what I'm going for. And so, like, okay, so like, do more of the things, like, you know, Naval, like, the only way to escape competition is to be authentically you.
It's a great quote.
Like, it's one of my favorite quotes because it's the truth. Nobody can duplicate being you. Yeah.
Well said.
By the way, I have no idea how you worked in private equity because you're not that type of guy. So I would just
I distinctly remember my boss looking at me one day and saying, "You're not a finance guy."
Dude.
And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, I know.
True story. Dude, I think you had a similar experience. This is a real conversation, and I still, you know what? Now that I say it, I should thank him again. I went to work for a private equity firm in Austin. This was like 5-6 years ago. A very good boss. This guy knew the game. We lended money to developers and builders. Like, he knew the game. Kind of reminded me of myself. My boss at the time was an old friend of mine. So he asked me if I wanted a job. I came on board. It takes like months to get my first deal because they wanted me to focus on like $100,000 deals. I found a $1.5 million deal, closed that like right out the gate. I close it and I'm so happy. Like, I'm like, yeah, like I beat my quota, like cool. I go, he said, come into my office. We're going to have breakfast. We're going to celebrate at 6 a.m. So we go in before everybody else. We sit down. He goes, hey, you need to leave in 2 months or I'm going to fire you. And I go,
wow.
what? I go, what? He goes, hey, you're like a stallion and you're out there and you're amazing and you have more talent than you can even imagine. This ain't for you.
That's a good boss. That's a really great boss.
At the time, you're like, damn. But then now I look back and I go, oh, they saw something in me I didn't see in myself.
Yeah. 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 People like that are like, I mean, just telling you the truth, right? Just trying to genuinely help someone out. Like,
No, I love
goes
it.
very far.
So if people want to find your podcast, they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so I host a podcast called The Freedom Formula. Talk about very similar things to Austin. You actually will hear Austin on the podcast coming up as well. So The Freedom Formula is the name of the podcast. My company is called Made This, MAIDTHIS franchise. So feel free to check it out. I'm probably most active on X. Starting to get a little bit more active on YouTube as well, but that's mostly where I am.
Yep. And if you need us, we'll be in Mongolia. So
boom, we're doing nomads.
Yep. I mean, just I can't even tell my fiance that because it'd be over. We'll be in the luggage. Hope everyone got some value from this, and we'll see you soon, guys.
Folks, if you made it to the end of the episode, I'm sure you found some value with what you're listening to. If you could send this to a friend, rate us and review us, share us around. The more that you share us, the more that we can share content with you. Thank you all so much for your time and listening, and we'll see you next time.